All right, good morning, PT on Ice Daily Show. My name's Alan, I'm the COO of ICE. Today we're going to be talking about a concept called Leaders Eat Last. I apologize for the terrible camera angle. My seat's maxed up. I'm in the mobile studio today. So, ICE Sampler this past weekend, great time. I'll touch on that in a minute. But I really want to dive deep into this concept of Leaders Eat Last. So it's the name of a book by Simon Sinek. You might have heard of him. He wrote the book Start With Why. And I'm going to touch a little bit on the book, as well as kind of some of the lessons I've learned about this concept from my time in the military. So Leaders Eat Last, I learned about it first in the Army. So in the Army, in the infantry, especially on deployment and working in the field for training, coming across hot food or even food in general can be kind of rare sometimes. And there's this concept in the military that the higher you get in rank, the further back you go in line. So the junior enlisted members, the privates, first class, the specialists and corporals, when it comes time to get in the chow line for food, they always go first. The sergeants and the staff sergeants and the first sergeants, kind of the higher ranking non-commissioned officers, the NCOs, they're kind of in the middle of the line, and then in the very back of the line are the officers, the commissioned officers, the lieutenants, the captains, the colonels. And it was always that way from basic training on, and it really stuck with me, that concept, that kind of hierarchy, that even though no matter how far you get promoted and how high your rank gets, that it still falls on you to ensure that the people underneath you get fed first. And it says a lot to me about an organization that's how they operate, because those people on the bottom, the privates and the specialists and corporals, those are the ones that really do all the work. Those are the ones that we ask to kick in doors and jump out of helicopters. And it just seems right and ethical that they're the ones to get the majority of the food versus the people in the leadership positions. And it's not always that way, especially in a lot of corporations and even in our own PT organizations, that the people on the top tend to get more than their fair share of the rewards. And there's a picture you've probably seen, a little comic going around. It's a two-sided comic. On one side, it's got, a person sitting on a desk at a computer on this stone slab, and a whole bunch of people underneath the stone slab moving it along, and it says boss. And the other side of the comic is the same stone slab, but there's no desk. There's a person way out in front, a person that's twice as physically fit as all the other people, and that person is helping pull the slab, and it says leader. And so that's kind of how I picture, boss versus leader. Leaders eat last. When I think about that concept from the military, I think that it says a lot of things. I think it says that you care about the well-being of the people that are underneath you, and that you don't think of them as employees or just people who do the grunt work, but as part of a team. And that's an effective way to run an organization. I reflected on the sampler this past weekend in Vegas, and that's how I came to choose this topic for today, because I saw that in our Airbnb that a bunch of the faculty rented this weekend. I was laying on the floor trying to sleep next to Jeff Moore, and I thought this is how to do this right. Everyone else is in the bed and we're sleeping on the floor, and Dustin Jones was there too. Dustin Jones is about 2 inches from my head, sleeping on the floor. And that don't ask somebody to do something that you would not do yourself, which in that case was sleeping on the floor. Going to the book Leaders Eat Last, Simon Sinek tells a story of this company in South Carolina. He follows it getting a new CEO, and kind of the CEO's reflections on taking over the company, lessons learned, and concepts moving forward. This place was kind of a split factory office setting, where there were factory workers making, I think it was furniture, making some sort of widget. They operated by a bell. Bell went off every 3 hours. They got 10 minutes to use the bathroom and take a break. Bell came back. They went back to work, and so on and so forth. And it tells the story that these people were kind of developing a caste system, a kind of us versus them mentality, with the factory workers working by this bell, needing to use a payphone to call home, paying for coffee, while they could see up in the rafters the office workers drinking as much coffee as they wanted, kind of just walking around talking to each other, using cell phones, using the bathroom wherever they want. And it started to get really nasty in this company, with the leadership taking kind of more than their fair share of the liberties. And the book goes on to tell that one factory member got sent on a kind of remote operation to Costa Rica to implement and open a new factory there. And he came back, and the CEO wanted to debrief him about what he learned from being away from the company for so long, for 3 months. And he said it was so much better. There was no bell. I got to use the bathroom when I wanted to. I didn't have to worry about the bell going off. I could call home whenever I wanted to, and yet somehow still got the job done. And that really resonated with the CEO, and it helped him recognize that there were a lot of barriers, that the leaders weren't eating last in that company, they were eating first. The CEO also reflected on his first day. He sat in the parking lot and watched how all the employees carried themselves, and he noticed that they were all sitting in the parking lot joking with each other, but as soon as that bell went off to start the workday, he stated, it looked like the souls were drained from their bodies, which is never something you want your employees to feel, your team to feel when they come into work. And that helped the CEO learn that he had to prioritize the well-being of the company, and that to extend trust, and to gain trust, you need to extend trust. So if you want employees to be independent and work on their own, then you need to give them the ability to do so. We talked about this before when I talked about extreme ownership, that if you want to develop leaders underneath you, you need to give them the opportunities to lead. The same goes with trust. And kind of the concept that strikes me most about this and its relationship to physical therapy is that you can't just treat the people underneath you as revenue generators. And I think we totally mess this up in physical therapy. The people at the bottom are the ones generating the hundreds of thousands of dollars that power physical therapy clinics and companies. And oftentimes the middle management and the upper management see very few patients or no patients at all. And that really starts to create this caste system. And I think it's what causes a lot of burnout within our profession, is that the leaders are eating first very often. So back to the book. The CEO of that company went through and removed the time clocks, removed the pay phones. He allowed employees to use office phones whenever they wanted. They could use the bathroom whenever they wanted. And they were allowed to walk around the company. They could go upstairs to the office and see what was going on and talk to the people there anytime they wanted. And you might be thinking, wow, I bet productivity tanked and that company really went downhill. And actually the opposite is true. They became so much more profitable, so much more productive when the leadership extended trust. They got trust back, they got more productivity back, because the people working at that company felt like the leadership cared about them and put their well-being above that of the leadership. And it really just took off to a new level. And so why do we care about this? So what? Like, everybody hates work, right? And the research supports that. There's a database called I think I'm saying this right, the Deloitte Shift Index, and it kind of captures all this data about employees and their thoughts about work and satisfaction. And at any given time, about 80% of Americans are dissatisfied with their job in some way. And that could be pay, benefits, time off, that sort of thing. But it could also just be that they don't feel like they're treated right. That same index tells us that 33% of people at any given time are ready to quit their job if a better opportunity comes along. So, think about that as you're in the clinic today and you're looking around. If you're a clinic manager, or director, or owner, look out at your staff and think a third of these people statistically would leave instantaneously if given a better offer. And that's kind of dangerous. And it explains a lot of the turnover that we see in physical therapy. Furthermore, to me, this ties into population health. Dissatisfied employees are unhealthy employees. There's a very high correlation in the literature between dissatisfaction with work and heart disease. There is a number of studies that look at members of the same company, those in leadership roles and those in kind of traditional just worker roles, and shows that circulating cortisol, you might think, is higher in the leadership, but it's actually higher in the workers. And that as people move up sort of the chain of command, further and further away from doing the actual work, they actually become healthier. So again, an example of leaders eating first and the well-being not being focused on the worker. More population health, dissatisfaction with work can increase presenteeism by as much as 40%. So presenteeism is the concept that people come to work, they don't call off, but they come to work and they just aren't as productive as they could be, as their peers are, as they could be on average. And that costs companies a lot of money. It could be costing your clinic a lot of money. And I think, coming back to this whole kind of broad spectrum population health concept is that if workers are dissatisfied, we're fools to think that the dissatisfaction doesn't follow people home and that it doesn't kind of infect every part of their life. And it's kind of a closed loop. If you are struggling at work, it's likely that you're going to be struggling at home. It's hard to turn that off. I think of, all the times I've come home and, how was work today? It was fine. And what I really mean when I say it's fine is that it sucked. And I think a lot of us feel that way, and it's hard to turn that off. And it kind of just becomes this closed feedback loop where people are not happy at work, and then they're not happy at home, they're not happy with their families, and they're just not happy people in general. And when you look at it that way, it's really easy to see how that could lead to increased cortisol, and then increased heart disease, and then increased death. And similar to Jeff talking about undertreating as two sides of the same coin of overtreating, I think we should be thinking that what if what we're doing at work and the environment we've created for our employees is actually affecting their health? And maybe it's actually killing them or causing them to get a divorce because the workplace is not a happy place. And I think if we can switch that, if we can extend that trust and make work fun and productive, that eudaimonic happiness, that idea of believing that you are making a difference in your work and that it has purpose, bleeds over into all aspects of our life and overall creates healthier, happier humans. So with Leaders Eat Last, the way I see this go wrong a lot is it kind of starts with a small thing, right? We're not defeated in one giant battle, but 1,000 tiny battles. And maybe we get promoted and we no longer think we need to clean the tables or clean the toilet or do these small things. And then it becomes we don't think we need to do these medium-sized things and that we're above it and that we should never get to that point. Don't ever ask someone on your team to do something that you would not do or have not done yourself. We see this a lot in the auto industry. The middle management are often people who went to college and have never worked in the auto industry in their life, but suddenly they're thrown and they're in charge of all these auto workers even though they've never done the job a day in their life. And so we should preach what we practice, and we should, as we say here at ICE, we should be about it. And that you're never too clean for some dirty work. You're never above cleaning the toilet or wiping down the tables or folding the laundry or treating patients when it's busy, for that matter. And that when you start to treat people like they're your family, it creates these really unbreakable bonds, and work becomes a really cool place. A place where your battery can be charged instead of drained, which is really powerful. And then people learn that work is a safe place, and they come to work not for the work or for you, but they come to work for each other, which is even more powerful. A place where they can find that eudaimonic happiness, that purposefulness in their life. And reflecting again back on the military, I think of the Spartans at Thermopylae, 300 Spartans against 1 million Persians. And they didn't win that battle with their expert individual swordsmanship. They won that battle because of the phalanx, the locked shields. They didn't fight one-on-one with the Persians and win. They pushed them into the ocean with the strength of their locked shields. And I think when we set our workplace up like that, then we see that productivity soars. People love to come to work, and it's not just that thing that happens between when they have fun with their friends. It becomes something they like to do. They're no longer sitting in the parking lot at 7:59 and 59 seconds waiting to walk in. They actually enjoy coming there. Maybe they show up even early, or they stay late, and we really start to see that productivity go up. So treat your employees not as employees or revenue generators, but as team members. Prioritize their well-being above all else, and recognize that to earn their trust, you have to extend trust to them. And not only do you have to lead, but you have to lead by example. It's important to remember that no team, no organization, no military unit has ever been managed to victory. They've been led to victory by a leader. And if you follow these concepts, you can be that leader and not a boss. All right, so that was quick and dirty. A bunch of courses coming up. Ice Sampler is on again, same location in Vegas next year, April 6th and 7th. If you were out there with us, you had a hoot and a half. So come join us next year. Next weekend we have Jess Davis in Peachtree City, Georgia, teaching cervical spine. We've got Mitch and Ryan up in New York City, in Manhattan, teaching Fitness Athlete Live. And we've got Justin teaching total spine thrust manipulation in Minneapolis. And then the weekend after that, the 28th and 29th, we have Eric Chaconis teaching extremity center management out in Sioux City, Iowa. So come out to one of these classes. I think, you know, once you come to an ice course, you really get hooked, and you really see that we preach what we practice, and we're about what we say, and that we kind of treat this as a family and not a job. So hopefully you can join us. If you'd like to talk more about this, please feel free to reach out to me. Have a wonderful Thursday. Thanks, guys.